I think, Ed, you said it well, seize the moment, don't let the moment get away, and we will not. I think the need has been very well articulated. I mean, the social problems we have in this state, they all stem back to a lack of resources. The job opportunities, the growth, the prosperity, all filter back to economic development. The government cutbacks, we know about those. I don't think we'll go off the cliff, but I think we'll go down that ramp that John Barella articulated. But I think that could be a marvelous opportunity. I remember when Golda Meir was asked after that Israeli six-day war, how were you able to withstand forces 6 times greater than yours? And she said, we had a secret weapon, no alternative. If the government sector goes into a serious cutback, we have no alternative but to build up the private sector. And then there's the talent release out of Los Alamos that has been spoken of before. Let me speak of this in personal terms. I have 4 children. They're grown adults. They're doing well, productive. Every parent's dream, they're off the payroll. But every parent's nightmare, I'm sure, is shared by many in this room. They're all 1,000 miles away doing well, and the grandkids are there too. So what can we do to provide the kind of opportunity to repatriate our kids, to get them back here, to develop these kind of things? Now, I've heard the aspiration for aspiring to Silicon Valley, and I think we definitely want to keep that on the horizon as a goal. We need to learn a lot from Silicon Valley as to how we can put the pieces in place. But for right now, how about Kansas City? I was there about 2 months ago, and I looked around the skyline, and there's Garmin and Cerner and Sprint and Hallmark Cards and H&R Block, each and every one of them a headquarters, a company, each and every one of them homegrown. So what do they have that we don't have? Humidity? What do we have that they don't? 2 national labs, a major research university right in our midst, a wonderful quality of life and lifestyle. You know, take a look at the magazines, the TV commercials, and those automobile commercials. Escape in this wonderful new car, out to where? Inevitably, it's done out in the Southwest. Well, we're already here, and that's just a wonderful advantage to take. So what else does it take? We got the crossword puzzle up here. It's my way of looking at the rainforest of attributes, but they're all kind of connected together in this manner. We've got many of those attributes, so what do we lack? We lack enough veteran managers. We need more Michael Schaefers and Terry Dunleys. We've got some, but we need more. And a second thing I think we need is we need a winning attitude. You know, New Mexico is just a wonderfully tolerant place. You can go out here on Central Avenue and you can spend all day long and not hear anybody honk their car horn at each other, okay? That's a nice thing. But you know, we're also tolerant of mediocrity. Oh, well, you know, what can you expect? It's only New Mexico. Well, we've got to move that needle over and begin expecting excellence and expecting to win. And let's nurture our winning companies while we're at it. Let's celebrate them. You know, they're here. How many in this audience have heard of UNIRAC? There's about, I'd give it less than 10%. Okay, UNIRAC is the world's leading producer, manufacturer of frames for solar panels. They are over 100 million a year in sales. They are growing like a weed. They're highly profitable right here on Broadway, okay? There's Myox and Altella, the leading water purification companies in the country. And we heard a little earlier about the importance of water worldwide. We've got the 2 leading players in that area. Postlavu, Andy Lim, a young graduate of Anderson 3 years ago, has a dynamite software company. It's his customers now in 30 countries around the world. There's a whole spectrum of what we can do, from incubating the tiny startups all the way to moving major corporations here. I'd like to focus on taking these kind of companies, nurturing them, providing the resources. My mantra is, let's not let the next Microsoft get away, okay?
We've already done it once.
Well, I'd like to think if Microsoft were at that inflection point right now where Bill and Paul were saying, my God, we can't get the kind of banking and legal help we need, that it would be here in this room, or that we could find it for them in Chicago and Denver and elsewhere as part of our rainforest. But let's also not let the next Hilton Hotel get away. Many of you may not realize the Hilton Hotel started right here in New Mexico, down in San Antonio, and what's now the Andalus Hotel was Conrad Hilton's second hotel. It doesn't have to all be high-tech. It can be low-tech. Wouldn't it be great if, well, look at your Gatorade. I mean, that's not a high-tech thing. Well, you try to sell it as such. But, but Starbucks, I mean, look at the opportunity Starbucks gives for some of those youngsters in Seattle. We need to look also at the low-tech opportunities. Okay, right to Anderson. Anderson School, we've got talent. We've got a lot of hardworking young men and women. There's a good work ethic there. This is my 4th year as dean, and I've yet to see a beer bottle on the way up the steps to my office. I mean, this is a serious, engaged group. There's an entrepreneurial spirit here. Our career services director decided to hold a self-employment fair and brought in West and Axion and some small business resources, and maybe 20, 30 students, 200 showed up. There's that kind of interest in starting their own business. We now consult with over 60 small businesses in this committee with teams of students, and they get $500 per client. Professor Raj Mato has really ramped that up. You may have seen just this last week, one of those enterprises is the correction industries for New Mexico. We got a nice coverage, and the governor came down for that. We have lots of interns out there. We've got alums, speakers, events. And we got our business plan competition. Dr. Sol Casasilla has created a really wonderfully vibrant competition where we have 18 to 20 teams every year that compete, and $25,000 prize for the top one, and a number of businesses have spawned off of that. And finally, we got, with Lisa Kudela's help, we've got our Economic Development Committee out of the STC, and I'm very pleased to be playing a part in that, and we're going to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Good afternoon. My name is Geraldine Forbes, and I'm the Dean of the School of Architecture and Planning. And when you think about New Mexico, most people think about the beauty of the environment, but also many people think about the beautiful buildings and the incredible relationship of these buildings to the city plazas and squares and our heritage as a state. So over time, many of those have waxed and waned in their economic development, let's put it that way. And in our school, we were very pleased that 40 years ago, the students and faculty in our school realized that we could not let the heritage, the built environment of New Mexico slip. It was important to the people, it was important to the place, it was important to tourism, it was important to social justice. And so the first of our centers of 5 that we now have in the school was the Design Planning Assistance Center. And that Design Planning Assistance Center started out doing simple things, building ramps for people, building porches for people to sit. And pretty soon they realized that there was a whole lot more that they needed to do. And so we've collaborated with New Mexico Main Streets, with economic development in the state, and have now done 21 city master plans, arts and cultural district plans that have led to a private sector development, private sector investment in these places of $82 million, of new building construction of over $42 million in the state, job creations of over 3,000 jobs, And this has taken time, and we've worked in every town from Las Cruces to Taos, from Farmington to Hobbs, Deming, and our new area is frontier towns, towns that have under 7,500 people. We're going to be doing an analysis of all of the Main Street theaters throughout the state and using them to galvanize communities. Because the first thing you have to do is you have to galvanize these communities and bring those folks together and make them realize what they need and have them articulate that and believe that they can do that and to believe that they can be a part of this. So that's what DPAC does. We've recently completed an MOU with the city of Albuquerque to create the ABQ UNM City Lab, which will be located right across from the Chemo Theater in this old historic Sears building, to place a studio that will house over 30 students in the downtown area. Across from the Chemo, we'll have faculty and students and events and exhibitions that talk about the need to maintain a vibrant downtown core and how the arts and cultural districts in this city are critical to the life of all of us, right? Oftentimes it's trying to look to see those things that are right in front of your face, but we've overlooked. And we had done that and not recognizing that the indigenous communities also needed to have good planning and design, and yet they have their own belief systems that require that we understand those to make those places relevant to them. And so over the last few years, I've worked with Dr. Ted Hohola to launch the Indigenous Design and Planning Institute. It has been amazing. The Native communities have absolutely joined together to first create a tribal roundtable of planners, to now support their students to come to the school. We have projects, we have 7 projects in the works, and we've just recently signed an MOU with the Navajo Nation to work on multiple projects, which will lead to infrastructural projects, which will lead to the need for greater health care for their folks, for education. But it was there. We just hadn't seen it before. We also, as you know, the computers have led to all kinds of innovation in terms of visualization and fabrication. So rather, we took our old wood shop and have now created the Center for Fabrication Technology, Research and Fabrication Technology. We still have the wood shop as part of that, but most of the tools are tools that actually work. A student can sit up in the studio, design a detail for a building, for some new sustainable product, send the model to the computer, 2 floors down, it is fabricated, then they can go down and look and see how it works, bring it back, we can critique it in the studio, remodel it, we fabricate it. It is really amazing, and we've now opened that up to industry. Chancellor Designs has asked us to do models for them. We've brought in practitioners from all over the country to teach them how to use this technology back home in their offices. It also means that our colleagues in architecture, planning, landscape, design don't have to buy these tools because they're pretty expensive and they change all the time. So another center that we've had for some time that's worked particularly with the county is the Resource Center for Raza Planning. Right now, students and faculty from that group are up working in Santa Fe, working on solving the problem of St. Michael's Drive. If they can do that, my hats will be off to them, because we all know that that is a problem. But what we do is not do the final project, because if we do the final project, we take that away from our colleagues, our professional colleagues. Our goal is for the client to be able to articulate a better call for proposal, to ultimately have a better product that'll come out of industry. That is economic development. And so, of course, we continue to teach, we continue to offer classes, we continue to collaborate with our professional colleagues, but we also hope to continue to collaborate with our other public schools at the university. Thank you very much.
So good afternoon. I'm Richard Larson. I'm the Executive Vice Chancellor at the UNM Health Science Center. Chaouki said to provide one slide and be able to talk from it. It's pretty hard to talk from it where he sat me, but I'll do my best. What I wanted to talk a little bit about is the Health Science Center's contribution to economic development in this community and the importance we have in that partnership. But to start off, I'd like to point out to everybody that in the United States, there's really 3 areas where we still are second to none in terms of leading the world, and undisputedly. And that would be in the areas of biotechnology, healthcare, and education. I think that's without a doubt, there is no other place that has had as many and as long a success with the development of biotechnology, from drugs to devices to all kinds of innovations. In healthcare, people still come here for healthcare if they can afford it. And in spite of the cost pressures we have and the accessibility issues we have, we still can provide the best healthcare in the world when you're able to get it. And then finally, education. More people come to the U.S. for education than leave the U.S. for education. And I think those are fields that we all want to continue to advance and take advantage of here in New Mexico. But all of those fields have tremendous challenges. Dr. Roth talked a lot about the challenges healthcare faces. Biotechnology faces tremendous challenges as well. Our main advantage has been our intellectual capital in biotechnology. Southeastern Asian countries are buying that capital. There are many, many top-ranked scientists leaving the country. For those of you familiar with the stem cell research arena, almost that entire industry either exists in Singapore and a little bit of it left in San Francisco. So it is a real threat. Education is transforming tremendously. All of you, or many of you, might know about the MOOCs, the massively open online courses. Well, this is a tremendous advance that's going to change the way education is delivered. MIT, Berkeley, they have a collaboration. They have 100,000 people in one class. The class only costs you $80 to take. Only 20% of the students actually pass that class. But a lot of people take that class, and when you finish enough classes, you get a certificate. Well, imagine if universities were able to put together a package that was tailored to exactly what was needed by a commercial entity to demonstrate that they were proficient in what that entity was looking for. Well, that is a tremendously powerful and persuasive thing for a student to engage in and for the economic community to want. That's going to be a tremendous challenge for universities going forward. The premise I'd like to put forth is that the solution to a lot of this has to do with better public-private partnerships. I think you heard one of the speakers this morning say there's a big difference between developing this and producing this, and that's right, because most of the development occurred out of academics and the defense sector, and most of it was then produced in the commercial sector. So to get to this over a couple decades, you've got to have effective public-private partnerships, and if you want to do it faster, you've got to have more effective partnerships. And so I think that's the real goal. Drug discovery is another really good example of that. Virtually 90% of drugs that are on the market today were discovered in academics. They were only after they advanced for several years were they then picked up and commercialized by a pharmaceutical company or a biotech company and eventually advanced into clinical practice. You heard it's a long tail on most biotech things. You're looking at 8, 10 years to get anything to market. So all of that depends on forming effective partnerships. One of the other big things that's changed was with the appropriation bill last December. The federal government changed the rules with regards to startup companies and SBIR funding. So all the National Institutes of Health, all the other federal agencies, whether they're related to DOD or the EPA, has to increase their budget from 2% to 3.5% devoted to SBIR funding, or funding that is for partnerships between small company startups and university situations. And so we've taken an approach in several ways. One is that in order to be more effective at this, we need to train our faculty better. And in order to do that, we've put in place a whole variety of either online or seminar series to help our faculty, and it's up there on that slide somewhere that I can't see, to help them understand how to work with the FDA, how to find commercial partners, what the whole commercialization process is like. It's both online and in small groups they can get this training. One of the things we're doing in about a month, on October 18th, is we're trying to bring together, I think all of you that are small businesses that we knew of, I've met with you. And all of you have agreed to kind of, if you're involved in biotechnology or healthcare, and you've agreed to come to the, together with our investigators that are interested in trying to commercialize their activities, and we'll have an event on that day in order to see if we can facilitate those sort of working together and collaborations within our community. One of the final things I think one of the things that was brought up this morning was how well STC has done and its trajectory. I think one of the evidences of that is our faculty has done a great job of increasing its number of inventions and the number of discoveries that it puts out there. But because we have a technology transfer office and we work closely with STC, we've been able to spin out 34 different companies in this Albuquerque area in the last 10 years. Most of the logos are up there. If you don't have a logo, I couldn't put it up there. We've been very trying to be increasingly proactive in how we do this. One of the, one of the speakers this morning made the point that it's changed a lot in the last 10 years. I think anybody who's been around knows it's getting better, and I think we're getting better at it. We can always continue to get better, but certainly this sort of public-private partnership is improving and helping everybody out. I think the final point I'd make is that one of the other themes that I've heard come through today is that in order to make this really work, we're going to need a lot of support of not only the state, but local government. And Dean Brown mentioned Kansas City. And the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce is probably leading the nation in terms of a local community trying to impact small business startups, and in their top 5 is actually biotechnology. And so I really hope that we can all think about also trying to facilitate and work more effectively with the government agencies that can help facilitate all this. So thank you very much for your time.
Good day. My name is John McGraw. In real life, I'm a professor of physics and astronomy at UNM, where I've been here for some 20 years now. I'm currently the interim vice president for research and economic development. At UNM, the health sciences effort is held separately from the rest of the main campus, where we have all of the canonical physics, the mathematics, biology, chemistry, and so on. And in addition, we have, under the purview of this, this discussion, things like architecture, the arts, and so on. Creative things that happen on main campus are part of the purview that I worry about just now. So this festival started under the rainforest paradigm. So that includes things including communication, motivation, and implementation. And in my 3 minutes plus, I intend to stress communication. In particular, President Frank's commitment to the New Mexico economy, as represented by this get-together, provides a start which we must all be committed to continue. And key to keeping that commitment is going to be continued communication. So in an era of metrics, I felt it necessary to reverse trends and create a metric for you all for communication. And that will be that everyone in attendance must exchange all of your business cards before you leave the room. And the really good thing about this is that there's a follow-on reward, which is if you do meet your counterparts and acquaintances for coffee, and each of you has the other's card, at the coffee shop, you will each receive a free napkin. So communication starts today. And as a professor, I've never, ever delivered a message in 3 minutes. So I know that I have to start this one from the tail end. And that is a request. And the request is that all of us in this room communicate. And in particular, please contact me, my colleagues, STC, because research is really a global endeavor. And how we capitalize on that is essentially up to the will of the people in this room. At universities, we teach people to do research. And this is inherently a creative thing, and it is a creative thing that has some rules, and those rules are of interest and value to all of us, whether we are in business or actually doing research in biology or chemistry. And again, this is something that is a good thing to do. It's educational, provides a critical element of the human resources that are required to do the kinds of economic growth that we would like to do and to bolster the economy. We are a diverse university. We are an Hispanic serving university. We have undergraduate students and graduate students who can contribute to economic development. We just simply have to be more aware as a university of ensuring that they are exposed to the abilities and the recognition of when they have created something that could be brought to market, that could contribute to the economy. And this goes for our students, especially our graduate students, and for some of our faculty members as well. One of the things that underlies successful economy is the ability to create things. And I would just like to remind people that at a university, any university, the hallmark of graduate degrees, and the PhD in particular, is the demonstration of the ability to create new knowledge, new information. And so very broadly, working with universities allows us to interact, to provide, and to exchange people who are well-trained right at the fundamental levels of creating new things upon which everybody can capitalize, as well as the people to bring these things to market and to implement them. And by the way, they're also very intelligent customers. We're a very high research university. We do approximately $160 million per year of STEM and related main campus research. And we do have a very robust research and development environment. And we, as I would characterize it from the slide I can't see, we are good and we are getting better and I believe it is within the grasp of the people in this room to communicate with us what they need in terms of future R&D and development, and allow us to work together to make even more robust this research effort on campus. We also have remarkable research assets, and some of these are the collaborations that we have talked about, including the proximity to HSC, the Science and Technology Park, STC, the various MOUs that exist between national laboratories and the university, and we have heard that these have to be growing. They have to be strengthened. But I would have guessed from the turnout at this particular meeting that I have failed to list the strongest of these assets, which is the communication, the interaction, and the collaboration that is going to occur amongst this group as a result, hopefully, of this initial meeting. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Catalin Roman. My staff renamed me, and so in New Mexico, I'm Catalin Roman. So people often address me on the street in Spanish, and my Spanish is not that good. Growing up in Romania, a country that has a great deal of admiration for the United States, the conversation often turned to the question why U.S. has been so successful. And there are many answers to that: resources, a spirit of entrepreneurship, and spirit of adventure, etc. But one thing that came back and back in the conversation has been the fact that U.S. has adopted a very progressive approach to education early on in its history. General global education across the country was a major asset for this nation to actually make progress. It turns out that there's a follow-up with that. If you look at the graduate education really created the rainforest that made recent technological advances possible. A lot of the ideas that have been very successful in this country have surfaced in other places. Even the airplane, the invention of the airplane, is not the only country that that had people thinking about the airplane and trying to fly the first airplane. But there were assets here that made it possible for the airplane industry to become a real success, to a commercial success, and to impact entire century and beyond. And I think graduate education is the area where I believe that this country has an asset that made possible innovation, and we are in that business of doing that and continuing in that tradition. Now that is not separate from the industry. It's not separate from government. The people who are graduating are actually involved in government. They're involved in leadership positions. They're involved in industrial leadership. But it is that culture of innovation, of creativity, that allows all these enterprises, government, industry, to actually flourish. What I would like to turn my attention in the few minutes that I have is that what can engineering school, focus our attention very narrowly, do? How can we carry out our own part in establishing a vibrant economic development in this community? When I came from St. Louis, one of the first things I noticed was a spirit of entrepreneurship within the engineering school that I never seen in other places, and I've seen many engineering schools, and also a level of creativity and a willingness to take products to commercial success, which I, again, have not seen at the same level in other places. So very early on, in the very first couple of months of my presence as dean at University of New Mexico, I realized that UNM engineering, it is an engine of economic development. There's a track record there of accomplishments that we have already in place. When I was talking to Lisa, I always like to brag on the fact that 60% of disclosures in new companies came from the engineering school. That's very, very powerful. It varies from year to year. Sometimes medical school is ahead of us, but that was a good year for us. So I'm gonna take credit for it. But I mean that fact really shaped my thinking about how I should approach I was called in on message, kind of a mandate of transformation and growth. But I tried to ask myself why. And economic development, the impact on economic development was a notion that really motivated me in everything that I've done. So we're actually embarked on a number of different initiatives to be able to facilitate that. At the student level, we're really looking at the entire life cycle of how we approach the education of the student, from engaging high schools, so their students being better prepared to come to UNM, to engaging them in a kind of an unusual first-year experience in terms of focusing much more on design and better understanding why they need to learn calculus and physics, etc. We are pushing them into undergraduate research, which impacts retention, impacts creativity. We're pushing them towards learning about entrepreneurship. And in our interactions with the business school, we're really trying to build that culture of entrepreneurship. We also are trying to engage very strongly with industrial partners and with laboratories. I visited all the laboratories. We're looking at ways to build partnerships between us. Thanks a lot.
Sorry, anybody else?
Great provost. We appreciate that. We really think that laboratories, like everybody else, views in New Mexico, laboratories are a great asset. And we are trying to engage very strongly with that, joint recruiting, joint initiatives, new centers which are being proposed to be created that tie in with some of the missions of the laboratories. We also are bringing an international perspective to things. There was a discussion early on about the importance of recruiting internationally. I have a little bit more complex view of recruiting internationally. I just came from a trip to Brazil this summer, and I'm going to Argentina. I believe that, yes, the international experience is important for our students. Yes, the international experience is important for our visibility across the world. But there is an economic development element of this effort. Students from UNM that are going to be successful in Latin America, for instance, when they start companies, they will turn back to UNM and to New Mexico to think as possible partnerships. Also, there is a lack of venture capital in Latin America, while we are one of the strongest countries in terms of venture capital. If STC creates a strong partnership with science and technology parks across Latin America, we now are really kind of a gateway of economic development between Latin America and United States and North America. Also, I think that it's very important to understand that multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary studies and research are critical to the future success of our students, of our economy. For that reason, I try to engage every school in the university in working together with engineering and creating a new generation of students who have skills that cut across disciplines. I think that I would like to, at some point, to see the deans of all the other schools coming to the provost and saying, you have to invest in engineering if you want to have all of us be strong. And of course, I'll be going to the provost and say, you have to invest in art and architecture, because if you look at the success of Apple, they brought in hardware, they brought in software, and they brought in human factors and design into one package and set a high standard of success. And many of the companies in Silicon Valley are actually really following that in those footsteps. And there's an entire revolution happening now in Silicon Valley in terms of manufacturing, returning to fundamental manufacturing. So I think that we want to basically be an example for the nation in terms of how we integrate the political structure, the industrial structure, the university structure, and all the disciplines towards success. Thank you.